Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris, this is 4K Motoring, and behind me is something a little bit different than anything we've done here on the channel in the past. Now, for the last couple years, really since about COVID times, I've been a pretty avid mountain biker. Now, two wheels is two wheels. I enjoy my motorcycles. I've been riding motorcycles a long time, but recently getting into mountain biking, I found there are a ton of trails and it is a lot of fun. Frankly, I used to be a dirt biker, kind of trail rider. In Raleigh, North Carolina, it is really hard to do that. It is about an hour to go anywhere to ride that thing. You gotta load it up, and it's really an all-day event. So, as I found, mountain biking really gets you into a very similar sort of riding, similar sort of fun, but there are trails all over the Raleigh area. Within 15 minutes or so of my house, there's 3 or 4 trails I could get to. So it is a lot of fun and very accessible. What I want to do today is tell you a little bit about what I ride and what I've done to my ride specifically, because I've made a lot of changes recently. If this is something that you guys enjoy, I'll be making a playlist for the mountain bike specifically. I'll still be keeping up my Ducati, my BMW, my Corvette content, all that stuff, don't worry. But this is just another addition to the channel. If this is something that interests you, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and let's get into it. So behind me is my 2021 Giant Trance X. Now this came as a brand new bike to me. Right around COVID time is when I got this. I had a little Diamondback hardtail that I was riding that I got into mountain biking. Wanted to go full suspension. Around COVID times, everybody knows it was really hard to get bikes and bike stuff. This bike had just come into my local Giant dealer, and really it was kind of what I was looking for in a mountain bike, even though I really didn't know what I was looking for in a mountain bike. It came stock with 150 mils of front travel with a RockShox 35 fork. It had 135 mil of rear travel, pretty modern geometry, had a flip chip, all that stuff. Was pretty cool. Paid about $2,400 for it initially, and that was my bike. To be even more specific, it was the Giant Trance X 29.3, the lowest variant of the Giant Trance X you could get at the time, and it had a lot of what I would consider real mountain bike parts, but low-end, entry-level real mountain bike parts. Now, in the last 6 months or so, I've spent a lot of time actually upgrading this thing and getting it to kind of the level I want it to be at, especially as the weather has started to cool down this fall and really into winter so far. And let me tell you exactly what I've done. eBay has been my friend on this build. I started with a Fox 36 factory fork. This was a takeoff I found on eBay. It was a 2021 model, I believe, so the same age as the bike, but it had recently been sent back to Fox for a full service, air spring service, lower leg service, all that together was just completed. And I was able to get this on eBay for a little over $300, which I think was a steal. It has the Grip 2 damper, so this is really the high end. Was it really necessary for the trails I ride? No, but man, the difference this made over the RockShox 35 that this thing had is absolutely phenomenal. Now, upgrading that fork, it was a pre-owned fork, so the steer tube was already cut down. It was cut down a little bit more than the factory fork that I had in there, so I had to lower the actual stem just a little bit from where it was. And because of that, the handlebars dropped down a little bit. I replaced them with a set of FSA Gradient handlebars that were a little bit bigger rise, I believe 35 mils as opposed to the 20 mil. So I ended up getting back to about the same height that I was running before. Started out with a 780 mil overall width, went down to a 760, and overall I think it's really comfortable. Some Ergon grips. This is a really nice feeling ride. I may eventually go up to carbon, but as of right now, I'm pretty happy with the way the front of that bike rides. The next big thing I did was switch out the wheels and tires. Now, the factory Giant wheels here on the floor behind me were heavy. They were very durable, but very heavy. I wasn't worried about a pinch flat. They had really wide rims, really avoided any sort of hazards with the wheels, but they were heavy. Every time I had to get those big 29-inch wheels spinning, man, if they weren't up to speed already, you could definitely feel the amount of effort you had to put into them. I went with, after watching a bunch of videos, a pretty reasonable option of wheels. These are the Hunt Trail Wide V2s. These Black Friday deal were under $400 for a set, and they are significantly lighter than the Giant wheels that this bike came with. They roll pretty quickly as well, and I think the hub, from what I can tell, is about a little over double the engagement from what I had. Still not anything like an i9 Hydra or anything like that, but definitely fast enough that I'm very happy with it on the trail. Around the same time, I was having some shifting issues, and if you know anything about the base level SRAM stuff that this came with, it had all SRAM XX, and the derailleur just would keep popping off the low side of the small gear into the frame and actually did some damage to the frame. And I couldn't quite get any adjustment where that would be fixed. The derailleur hanger was straight, it never really took an impact, it just was all plastic. So over time, this thing had just worn out just enough that it wasn't shifting well. So I upgraded to a SRAM GX derailleur. Wasn't really that expensive. I did get a new one of those just because they do wear out. And I think that was a good budget option, kind of that peak value proposition where the GX is very durable, very effective, but maybe a little bit heavier than the XX1, XO1, those higher level things, but still works about the same and can maybe take a little bit better beating. Got the upgraded cassette as well when I got the new wheels, so all that was lighter, a little bit stronger, and went ahead and swapped out the tires. This was definitely something I was a little bit concerned about. I didn't quite know exactly what direction I wanted to head. Now, I kept washing out on the front end a lot, especially towards winter, towards fall, winter, when there's so many leaves and pine needles on the ground, it was a little bit slippery. I kept washing out the front end. So what I ended up doing with these new Hunt wheels, I ended up going a little bit more aggressive on the front. I went from a Minion DHF on the front to an Assegai. And if you guys know anything about the tires, this is one of the most aggressive tread patterns you can get, and that's kind of what I wanted. I wanted to have the absolute maximum level of grip on the front of this bike, especially going up to this Fox 36 with a little bit more travel, 160 mils versus the 150 mil that the bike came with. I went with a little bit more travel up front, but tried to balance that out with a little bit faster rolling Rekon on the rear. This is a little bit faster rolling, a little bit less resistance than the Dissector that came on the bike. So overall, I kind of went opposite directions. I went more aggressive on the front, less aggressive on the rear. And so far, the couple times I've had this on the trail, it has worked really well. First off, I love the brown sidewall tires. I think they match the Kashima really well. But I think going more aggressive in the front and less aggressive in the rear really made this bike a lot more lively, really gave me a little bit of extra speed with that faster rolling rear and a little extra confidence with the extra grip up front that I've really liked this setup so far. It has done really well for me. Now, because I've liked the brown sidewalls matching the Kashima coating on the front shock, I decided to upgrade the rear Fox Float DPS that came on the bike with one of the brand new Fox Floats. This is another Facebook Marketplace find. It was a takeoff from a new bike, unridden, and this is a 2024 float. So this is same measurements, a little bit more updated. This is the factory edition with the Kashima coating, which oddly is a little different than the Kashima from the front forks, which I don't quite understand why Fox does that. But it does give me a little different level of adjustment on the front, a little bit more adjustment on the front almost. And this has been really nice to ride. I've actually noticed a difference between the old DPS and this that I've been quite surprised at how well that's done. Because of that, I've also, hopefully in this next week it'll be here, ordered a Fox transfer factory. So I'll have a Kashima dropper post that I think will set this all off, and I'll get some black pedals to replace those red ones. And I think this bike will be about the way I want it. The only things on my list yet are replacing these cranks with something a little bit lighter. Maybe Carbon GX is kind of what I'm leaning towards right now, something durable but a lot lighter. And eventually replacing these handlebars again with something carbon just to increase compliance on the ride. I think that'll make a little bit of difference. And overall, this bike will be pretty fantastic. Now, luckily, like I said, most of these parts I've gotten secondhand. A lot of them as secondhand takeoffs, but secondhand nonetheless, so I've gotten a big discount on pretty much everything here. It is possible to get a very high-end bike for not high-end money. Because I bought the actual bike when I did, definitely paid more for the initial bike than I should have. You can get right now the high-level build of this bike for less than I paid for the low-level build back during COVID, and that's just the way it is. I do have coming, hopefully in the next week, I have the new Kashima dropper post, the Fox dropper post, and I have the brakes going to be upgraded from the Shimano base level 4-piston MT420s, I believe is what I have, to some SRAM code RSCs, which should be a little bit better modulation, a little bit better quality brakes, a little bit bigger calipers, still 4-piston. I did just upgrade the brake rotors, and honestly, I think these 2-piece brake rotors look a lot better. They're definitely lighter on the bike. So overall, that's what I've ended up with the bike. So far, I really like it. It is a lot of fun to ride. It has gotten pretty well dialed to exactly what I want out of a bike, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, I will say with my best estimate, I haven't measured it, these things in the medium-sized frame from factory, from what I heard, are about 33.5 pounds. Between the tires, the wheels, and some of the upgrades I've made now, I expect this bike is right around 30 pounds is what I expect. And for a 160 mil travel bike, I think that's actually pretty good. I'm not complaining about that. This is a pretty beefy bike. Everything is seemingly overbuilt on it. It doesn't seem very fragile at all. And because of that, you do pay a little weight penalty. But either way, I think 30 pounds for something with this much travel is pretty respectable. Going with a couple little changes, the carbon handlebars, carbon cranks, might be able to drop that down just to a little under 30 pounds. If you guys want to follow along and see me actually work on this thing and see the modifications I'm doing in real time, let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to do that as well. Like I said, this is a ADHD interest that I'm following right now that I've been spending a lot of time with. Again, if you want to see more of it, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Let me know that you want to see this sort of thing or have questions about the actual build itself. I'm definitely willing to take suggestions as well. This is by far the nicest mountain bike I've ever had. I am by no means an expert here. I'm just slowly figuring it out. As always, I'm Chris. This is 4K Motoring. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.